All right. I'm going to start off with a question. What's the number one thing that impacts your business the most, hands down? What is the one thing that will determine whether you succeed or fail in your business? It's more important than, well, just take a moment. What is that one thing? My answer is this. My answer is it's the decisions. The decisions you make are the most critical component in your business for you to succeed. And if you do not think that's true, just take a moment now and reflect back on your business and think about decisions you've made in your past that worked out really well and you're glad you made them. But also think about those decisions that you made. You wish you had a time machine, go back and change that decision. And there are a lot of failed businesses out there that I will guarantee you, if they can go back in time, they wish they had made different decisions. Just think, oh my gosh, some companies that are no longer in business. And so it doesn't take much to realize that's true. So the decisions you make will have it will have the greatest impact on whether you succeed or not. And it's the reason why people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, why they're successful, or Ray Dalio. They make quality decisions consistently. People that fail don't. So the question then becomes, what has the greatest influence on whether you make a good decision or a bad decision? What influences it the most? My answer is mindset. And the reason it's mindset is because your mindset has filters that determine how you perceive all the information that's coming in that allow you to make a decision that you're collecting. It has filters that change how you perceive information. And in today's call, we're going to examine some of the most influential filters that impact your decisions the most. So today, I'm not going to cover a complete list of all the filters that influence your decision. I'm just going to cover the ones I see the most common ones and some of the more important ones that can affect whether you make a good or bad decision. So here's the good news. Once you're aware of these filters, you can assess whether some of your filters need to be updated or upgraded because they are really degrading your ability to make an effective or great decision. And so the more you optimize these filters, the better decision maker you'll become and the greater results you'll get in your business. So what I would ask is, if you would, as we go through this, I've only got a few today, just take a moment and get a sheet of paper and just score yourself 1 to 10. Where do you stand on these filters? Is a 10 would be that particular filter we're covering really supports you in making great decisions, or at the other extreme, a 1 would be a filter that you might have that needs to be updated or upgraded because it really degrades your ability to make effective decisions. And I know this, I experience this when I'm working with my business owners, is I'm paying attention to those filters because it's giving me clues of where I'll see business owners making really bad decisions. And I might give some examples in today's call. So the first filter I'm going to address is, and I would say this is the most important one, is identity. And yes, I perceive identity as a major filter, and it's a big one and has a lot of different components to it, but it is a major filter. And so I'm going to go through briefly and give you some examples of what I would say is a high level identity that automatically allows you to make great decisions. And so these are just some components of it. And this is just my experience in working with clients. But if you define yourself as someone as you're comfortable in your own skin, you don't have to prove yourself to others and get their approval, you're resourceful, you've got a servant heart, you believe when you commit, you'll find the way, you're humble, you see yourself as someone courageous that can thrive in uncertainty, you're decisive, you're not at cause, you're at cause and not at the effect of life. You have an ability to be vulnerable and honest with yourself. Again, these are just some, but this gives you a flavor of the direction I'm talking about. If you feel your identity meets those characteristics, then score yourself a 10. On the other hand, if you feel, and if you're honest with yourself, you feel your identity tends to put you in a place where you're negative all the time, you doubt yourself, you're unresourceful, you see all the flaws within you, you see all the flaws, it's judgmental, it does all these different things, and you met people with that identity, and maybe that's you. If that is you, score yourself a 1. Again, your identity is the most powerful force in your personality and how you see the world. So the remaining filters that I'm going to cover today are, in my mind, components of the identity. And I like to break them out so we have something that we can chunk down and it's more manageable to work on, because if I say work on your identity, that's too big a piece. But as I break this down, and I'll do this with clients, I could work on these individual pieces. And as we do that, we can improve, again, their decision-making process. So the next filter, which I say is a component of your identity, is, and affects your decision-making a lot, is your need for certainty. So is your need for certainty, here's the question, is your need for certainty in overdrive, where that you've got to know, all the answers in advance. You don't make a decision till every piece of information is looked at. You need a lot of proof. You need a lot of evidence. You don't do well in the unknown. If that is you, then score yourself a 1. On the other hand, if you feel that you can take the most pertinent information, assemble it, and make a decision, and you're comfortable going into the unknown, score yourself a 10. What you find, and I see this with business owners, the more they're comfortable with the unknown and their certainty is not in overdrive, they can make a lot better decisions, because if you have a high need for certainty, you tend to be more fearful. And if you're fearful, you're going to make a bad decision, usually. And so let's give another filter that greatly impacts your ability to make great decisions, and that is your need for significance. If your need for significance, again, is in overdrive, and you always need to be right, your assessment is only the correct assessment, and your decisions are dominated by your ego, then I would say score yourself a 1. And I have seen, I'll give you one example. One time I had a very wealthy client who used to own a chain of restaurants, very successful, that was living in a trailer because he lost all his money trading. And when he got to me, I was asking him, well, how did you do that? And I asked him, I said, well, when you're trading, do you ever put stops on your trade to prevent the loss, of your investment? He goes, no, because it would mean that I'm wrong. And so I'm going to stay with that stock. And he was welcome to do that. And he did, and put him in a trailer, going from a really wealthy place to dirt poor, all due to an overdrive for a need for significance. So that's just a great example of how that filter can greatly impact your decision-making ability. The next filter, and a lot of these are interrelated, but I tend to break them out because it's easier to work on it when I'm working on with somebody, is that the next filter that can really impact your decision-making ability is your emotional states. For example, you stay in an emotional state where you're pessimistic all the time, you're depressed, that you're unhappy, you're fearful. If you are, score yourself a 1. On the other hand, if you're a 10, you consistently live in a beautiful state. You're resourceful all the time, you're fulfilled, you're happy, you're balanced. When bad things happen, you can be the calm in the storm. You have a lot of emotional fitness. That would be a 10, and that would be someone that's going to make a much better decision, because if you're a 1 in this area, what I find, and this is 3 things I look for in a decision-making process with a client, when they're highly emotional, they tend to do one of these 3 things, or if not all of them. They either distort what they're perceiving, they generalize of what's happening, or they delete key information that could be important in their decision process. So this is another big one that you've got to resolve that filter if you're a 1. The next one I see is whether you live in a growth mindset or fixed mindset. If you lived in a fixed mindset, you're going to, everything is black and white. There's only one way to do it, and there's only one right way to do it, and you're relentless in trying to do it that way. If you are in that fixed mindset, score yourself a 1. On the other hand, if you would say you have a growth mindset, you see multiple ways to accomplish something, and when you fail, you don't see it as failure, you see it as a feedback that you take and learn from, and then go back at it again with the lessons you learn from that feedback. If you are in that growth mindset, score it a 10. Again, this is a component of an identity, because you either identify yourself as someone that's growth oriented or someone that's black and white. But by breaking it down, it gives you something. If I'm working with a client, I can work on that specific aspect of their identity. And as I stated, there are other filters that also impact how you make decisions. And that's what's great about working with people. They're complex. But that's the great thing. There are major chunks that we're able to get up that give you an ability to make much greater decisions once we identify where you're the weakest on some of these major areas. And because this area is so important, I'm going to be spending more time developing this material and getting it out. There might be a couple other indicators I will identify. I plan to put together a more comprehensive assessment that I'll put on my profile that you can click on, just score yourself and see how you do. But again, it's something that you want to focus on, because the more you resolve these areas that we talked about, and there'll be a few more that I add down the road, again, the better decision maker you'll become, and the better you will be in your business. So in the meantime, hope you're having a great day, and I look forward to seeing you on our next live stream. Thank you.